this book is not my version. This book is the truth. I think it is very important for the men folk, whether it's a father, whether it's a husband or a son, to be the protectors. My father was not my protector. There are times I still think that maybe, I should have put my foot down and maybe I should have brought Sheena and Mikhail along with me. I still cannot understand that your wife is arrested. All you can think about is stopping a transfer of a flat to Vidhi the same day. Obviously, I knew there was foul play. There was no doubt about it. See, one thing is very clearly established, that Sheena was definitely alive well after that alleged date of her disappearance. I meet Karti. In prison. I think people also started realizing that there was some digging going on in the INX matter. Now when I look back, I'm convinced that somebody didn't want me to speak. Being from the media background myself, I did realize how all of this works. A lot of fading stars who still believe they want to exist. I think it was their moment in the sun. It is not easy to be Indrani Mukerjea, I can tell you.
Are you searching for Sheena?
I am searching for her. I will find her.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching ANI Podcast with Smita Prakash. Thank you for watching or listening to this channel. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you are seeing this or hearing this. My guest today is an unusual choice for the podcast. Indrani Mukerjea is a former media baron who spent 6 years and 8 months as an under trial in a prison in Mumbai for the alleged murder of her daughter, Sheena Bora. She got bail in 2022 and has now come out with a book, Unbroken. Indrani and her husband Peter Mukerjea were the toast of town in Mumbai and Delhi for more than a decade. Peter was arrested in 2015 by the Central Bureau of Investigation in connection with the murder case of his stepdaughter, Sheena Bora. He was charged with murder, conspiracy for murder, and causing disappearance of evidence. He's out on bail since 2020. Peter and Indrani ended their 17-year-old marriage in 2019. It's not just the alleged murder of Sheena Bora that brought the couple infamy. Indrani Mukerjea in 2018 said that former Finance Minister Chidambaram's son Karti had asked Peter and her for a bribe, which they paid, and that led to the arrest later of Karti and even his father P Chidambaram. The book doesn't delve too much into the INX media scam or scandal, as it's called. It's more about Indrani's personal life. Let's see how much she's willing to speak about it in the podcast. Indrani, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I've read the book. It's on the stand for viewers, those who want to buy it. As you can see, I've flagged quite a few parts of the book. It's a disturbing read. It's a difficult read, simply because of the kind of life that you have led. From small town India, Guwahati was relatively quieter kind of a place back then, to a slightly faster paced life in Calcutta, to the glitz and glamour of Mumbai. And then you go to jail for the alleged murder of your daughter. You spent 6 years, 6.8 years for the alleged murder of your daughter, awaiting the trial. And then you get bail, you come out, and then you write this book and you're back to TV studios. It's quite a life that you've led. So let's begin from the beginning.
Let me start off with the book, I think, since we are talking about the book. As the title itself suggests, Unbroken. This title essentially is a description of my own spirit, and which I do believe essentially is, the spirit of every human being. And the human spirit is essentially very, very resilient. And no matter what the circumstances are, if you can find your inner strength, I think you can remain unbroken. And which is why very often we see survivors, whether it's rape survivors, whether it is acid attack survivors or accident survivors, I think they come out much stronger. So the this is the essence of the book, that, the inner strength is essentially our voice, and a voice we need to raise, whether we are women, whether we are children. We must not be afraid to speak up, of course, at the right time. There is a time for everything. And I think it is my time to speak. So I have...
You learned very early in life that there are consequences to speaking up. The book very early talks about your childhood and the trauma of being raped by your father and then being let down by the men. And I'm going to quote this part. He said, "The three men in my life, my father, Upendra Kumar Bora, my son, Mikhail, my ex-husband, Peter, the people I thought I could bank upon, put me through turmoil I don't feel I deserved. My empathy led me to calm, which eventually offered clarity." So you did try to speak to your mother at that time. That was that traumatic. You got raped twice by your father. That was dreadful.
It is in the book, so I find it really very difficult to talk about it, which is the reason I have written it. It's much easier to write and put your thoughts down, put your emotions down. And it has been inside me for a very, very long time. And this book is a closure of all the turmoil that I have gone through in my life, and the way I have faced it. And every time I have had the strength and the courage to get up and run again. And like you said, it's a full cycle. I am again back in the TV studios. So that is, I think, the essence of the book. But yes, I find it very difficult to talk about what has happened in my childhood. And the message going out in this book essentially is that I think child abuse is still very prevalent inside closed doors.
Yeah.
It happens in all families at all levels of society.
Even as we speak, Indrani, there's a case of a government official, his for having allegedly raped a minor.
Yes.
And his wife gave abortion tablets to this girl, supposedly.
Right.
It's not been proven as yet, but that's the allegation. And she didn't have the strength to talk to her mother. Her mother was a widow. She didn't have the strength to talk to her mother. And what happened was that she was having panic attacks, and then she went to hospital, and there they figured out that this is what happened after speaking to her. And when I was reading that in the newspaper, it brought me back to your book, because there were parallels that I saw that this happened. And I'm going to read out a part, and I'm reading out parts of the book because I don't want to speak to Indrani and make her relive all those experiences. But I think it's necessary for people to have this conversation. Mothers who have daughters, listen in to your children. Fathers, so that your daughters can speak to you and believe those children when they come and tell you about abuse. I'm going to read this out, Indrani. It might be hard. You say, in between sobs and stutters, I told mom about the previous night. That's the night when your father came in and raped you. When I finally looked at mom, I could see that she had an unfathomable expression. It was impossible to understand what she was thinking or feeling. I can figure out that it must be hard to believe also, right? No woman would want to believe that of her husband, because you don't mention anywhere in the book that whether she was abused by her husband, whether she was beaten, or there was, because you do mention that he had alcoholism issues, but you don't talk about it. So I guess for her it comes as a shock. She doesn't want to believe it. And then she squeezes your hand and she says, I will take you to Dr. Mason today. Get changed. Don't talk about it to anyone. That's something that so many women have told their daughters. Don't talk about it to anyone.
Yeah. No, it was a very, very difficult moment for me. But as a child, your emotions are, not as evolved as they are now. And I mean, when I look back, it's still very, very painful when I talk about it, which is why I don't talk about it. But I think, when I look back, I think the pain that I feel now is, I think sometimes I really wonder whether I find it more painful now or it was emotionally more painful then.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because at that point in time, it was a shock to my system. And it was very, very shocking. And the second thing was, I did not know how to react, really, because I did not know exactly at that point when it happened what my mother was going to do next. And in my head, obviously, as a young child, I just wanted to, I never wanted to see my father again, ever in my life. And that was the kind of support perhaps I expected, not perhaps I did expect from my mother as well, that, she was never going to see his face again.
But you were 14 then.
Yeah. So it was a combination as the story goes. I'm not going to talk more in detail, but I'm talking about my emotions and my feelings at this point. So at that point, I think as a 14-year-old, at that particular moment, I did not know what the next steps were going to be. But I did feel very let down eventually in the next couple of years, because I did want to stay with my mother and I did not want to be sent away, or I did not, it is, I think for most women, and it happens a lot to rape survivors, they are made to live with the shame, though they have no control over it.
That you must have done something to attract that. But your mother didn't say that.
No, my mother never said that. I think my mother, it was not that my mother did not believe me. I don't think that had ever happened. Okay, so that situation never came up. But it was more of, I think, she did not have the courage to stand up and go and report. Or I think she cared, about what the society would think, and maybe it would all be thrown back at me. I think that could have been one of her concerns. And most importantly, I think, her attachment to her husband. It was a choice. I think it was a choice in between.
But he raped you second time then.
It was a choice she made in between me and him. And people make choices sometimes others cannot understand or rationalize with. It happens every single day in our lives. And I think that is what I look at it as now. And it took me a very, very, when I left home, I did not establish contact with my family, with my parents for over 10 years, because it took me that much time till they reached out to reconnect with my children. So that was very important for me. And when they needed me, I think I just felt it a moral obligation to be there for, them. They needed me, my financial support. They were unwell. So maybe it is, I did not do it consciously to earn good karma or bad karma. It was not that. But it was that decision I took. Would have not responded to their call.
You left 2 children with her. One was Sheena,
Yes.
and one was Mikhail.
Yes.
And Sheena was born after that. Oh, she partied with her friends, so,
Right,
to that effect,
right.
because she didn't want to tell Dr. Mason that it's her husband who did it. And then you got angry and you said this is your biological father, because you say
Yeah.
of their mother's husband at 14 and then again at 16. So why did you write this? I mean, the mother's husband. Why didn't you say dad?
I will tell you why. Because I do not believe, honestly, your father is, which is what I had written at the beginning, whether it's your father, whether it's your son, whether it is your husband, the society that we live in. And when there is so much of this thing about, we talk about the good girl syndrome, that is very husband or a son to be the protectors. My father was not my protector. So I think it took me a very, very long time after that to really accept or even to say he's my father. It's just more of that. It is more of a emotional kind of reaction. That was a reaction.
But at no point of time your mother said that he's not your biological father.
No, my mother has never said it. No.
No.
No, no, no.
Because it's really difficult, to imagine how demonic a man can be to do this to his daughter. So when I read this, I was just a little confused, and that's why I thought. Now, once this happens and you have one baby and then the second baby, why would you leave your children in a home where you were raped? You didn't think it's an unsafe environment to leave the children?
Smita, I was 17 years old. Okay, I had 5,000 rupees in my account. I did not want to leave my children, which I have mentioned very
In the book,
clearly
yes.
in my book. Okay, and I would have never perhaps reconnected had my children not been there. But I also at the same time, see, I have made my mistakes in life, Smita, so I am not perfect. I do not claim to be perfect. I am also not the good girl that society expects me to be, the good girl defined by society. I have led an unconventional life. A lot of it perhaps have been wrong decisions, but a lot of it also has been circumstances that I was in. So as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, I was neither financially nor emotionally ready, because I was going through that turmoil myself and I needed to stand on my feet. And I did go back when my children were barely, 3-4 years old. I did go back to
Your mom, yeah.
to my mom to bring them back.
And she said that you've signed off.
I have signed off, and obviously they were the custodians. That was one, and my own children obviously didn't recognize me because I left when they were really tiny. So it was not necessarily a decision that I had taken because it was a right decision or a wrong decision or a decision that I was in control of. At the age of 17 and 18, I was not in control of my life or my circumstances.
You say that also. I have somehow always had to bear the shame for things that weren't in my control.
Absolutely. And this is also, proved. I mean, it is in the court records. I shouldn't be talking about it. But yes, my parents, my mother did adopt them. And legally, I could not fight a battle to get them back till they themselves wanted to reconnect and come back to me. So it was that.
Everybody bought into that argument, like your mother adopts the two children, your two children, and the men in your life vaporize and leave. Whether the father leaves and then Mikhail's father leaves, and then your aunt says, now this is going to be the story, that they're not your children, they're your siblings.
Yeah.
And then subsequently everybody, but I mean, Guwahati knew about it. There were people, you were obviously pregnant.
No,
in
actually,
in
a
both
lot
cases.
of people, the second, of course, people did know.
They knew, so you've gone through it.
Yeah, so it wasn't that, see, that is the mystery of it all, because like the way a lot of people came out and claimed, oh, we didn't know. But it's very strange that people, in my family, I don't want to now get into it again. I don't want to go back to the family parts of it because I'm no longer bitter about it. I've written everything. And I was initially very upset, and even I went through a whole bunch of emotions when I was left by myself, and people were giving out different narratives. So it was not like one big secret, it was just more of a legal convenience situation where they were adopted and their names were there as, Sheena and Mikhail and children of so and so, and that continued. It was just more of that.
The legal was that they were your siblings, but it wasn't as if people didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone in Guwahati knew.
Yeah.
My ex-husbands knew about it. So it was...
But Peter has gone on record, Peter Mukerjea, your ex-husband, has gone on record to say that he didn't know about it till
he had
much
gone on
later.
record to say that, but
lot.
he again, a lot after I was arrested. But after that, he also went on record to say that he knew about it. So
Now, that Rahul told him, that his son told him.
Yeah.
But when you got married
But
to him,
when
you
of course
didn't...
I did. Of course I did. That is what I have written in my book. But most importantly...
No, you didn't tell him that you had 2 children and they were your children.
No, when... I have spoken about I've written about the letter, I think. When the letter came in and when Sheena and Mikhail came, of course they knew about it.
Before marriage, in which you talked about wanting to bring Vidhi, and then you bring the children Sheena and Mikhail.
Yes.
But
No, he knew about it.
He knew about
it because there was a letter that came from home. And that is again a part of the charge sheet, which I don't want to talk about the charge sheet right now. But
and there were also journalists when you were in jail who said that you introduced them as your siblings and not as your children. So these were journalists who worked in the news channel.
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely, it is not incorrect to say that, because that is where, that is how it was. And there was a very clear, I have explained it to you in detail.
Yes.
In the book, that despite the fact when we re-established contact and they came in, why that status was still maintained, I have explained it in the book very, very thoroughly. And
you also talk about how difficult it was with Sheena, where you wanted to be the mother, hug her, and she didn't know you.
Yeah.
So
it took time. But eventually we did get very close, to be very honest, because Sheena stayed with me, for over 3 years. And during that period, whilst I was very, very busy, also we spent a lot of time together. And so that, I think, bonding increased as time passed. And in fact, when... I don't know how much I have written about it, I can't recall, but, there are several messages which have come on record where she says, these are messages exchanged in between Rahul and Sheena, where she clearly tells him that I am in a very good space with my mother, I am very happy with my mother, so please do not interfere in my relationship with my mother. So that is a very... kind of telling statement by itself. See,
it's probably not in the book simply because I think you wrote the book in jail.
Yes,
and it was like...
these actually I could not...
you can't put everything.
Yeah, I could not include that because Rahul's deposition had not happened at that point. So till we received a confirmation from him on the stand, which he did confirm that yes, Sheena did tell him that do not interfere. So up until then, I did not want to really put it on record because, at the end of the day, I think all the statements that have come on record itself explains a lot of things, which I could not include in the book at that point because the deposition was not done.
All through, actually it began very early where you realize that till you have financial stability and you make it financially independent, you won't be able to get your children back. Many women realize this very early in life, that they need to be financially independent to take care of their children just in case things don't work out.
Right.
You got to learn about that in a hard way.
Yeah.
You had kids before you could even finish your college schooling.
As a minor.
As a minor.
Right.
And then you go on to Calcutta, you take a job, you make a success of your career, and you keep... In between, I've noticed many times you write about this, and I'm going to quote from the book for viewers and listeners. Indrani writes, "Ambition for a woman is a cardinal sin. I'm not apologetic about my chiffon saris that I apparently wore to lure powerful people. Everything from a hooker to a man-eater to a social climber to the most bizarre claim of them all, a veritable monster who killed her own daughter." Now, this is what... you were called by many people. We'll get to that portion later.
Yes.
But it's about ambition that I want to talk about, because
Right.
when you went to jail, there were these nasty television debates which happened where it forget about the murder that happened or didn't happen of Sheena.
Actually, that
That's
went to the background later.
it was
It was about me. Everything was
bad
about
mother, ambitious woman who leaves her children, and I mean I don't want to go into that whole thing,
Yeah.
but it was a lot about ambition.
Yeah.
When did you realize ambition not a bad word? Financial stability important. It's there in the book, but then those who
Yes.
haven't read the book, I'd like you to tell
Yes.
me.
Okay. I must be very honest with you, Smita, that when I left Guwahati, and on hindsight today, sometimes there are times I still think that maybe, I should have put my foot down and maybe I should have brought Sheena and Mikhail along with me, even though I was very young. But I'll tell you something, if I would have stayed back in Guwahati, I think I would have killed myself. I would have, because I could not deal with what was going on with me anymore. I could not deal with further abuse. So, whether it is a question of that did I put myself as a human being before my children at that point when I was 17 and I was undergoing constant abuse, okay, did I fend for myself before them is a very debatable question. Okay. And I'm being very honest because I don't want to say that I am perfect, because I am not perfect. I know other people might be, people who make judgments and have great opinions about me may be perfect, but I am not. Okay. So I have made my share of mistakes, and sometimes on hindsight I think about it, that maybe I should have brought them, or maybe I should have endured the abuse and continued to stay back there for my children. Maybe that would have made a lot of people think I was that good girl. I fit into that good girl syndrome, okay? Or I would have been a good mother or whatever. But what I feel that there was a combination of two things when I had left home. One was I couldn't deal with the abuse anymore. B, I also knew that if I needed to take care of my children and give them a better life that they deserve, and I'm not talking about just financial, that I need to be able to get a hold of my own financial stability as well as my own emotional stability. Which I definitely could not do staying under the same roof as my father.
And because your father had been asked to leave, but he was returning.
That was until then I stayed.
You
right?
stayed.
I stayed. I stayed with the children and I studied and I worked very hard and I was a good student despite everything else. Everything that happened around me, I continued to take care of my children. But the reality is that as an 18-year-old, I was not financially capable to take care of them on my own without financial support from someone. So at that very early age also, I did realize that I was not the regular girl, next door girl. I was never just a regular girl. That I knew from day one, that I had a strength perhaps which probably I recognized and perhaps other people couldn't see it. And that was the drive that I had within myself, that I knew I would get out, and that, if I get out of Guwahati was the only time I would be in a position to give the best to my own children. That was something I was very sure of. The second thing that I was very sure of was that, if I had the ability and the capabilities, I would not let anything come in the way of my ambition. And when I'm saying anything, means that I would not allow society to tell me that this is a particular way I need to behave, because it is not right for a woman to be ambitious. So that was something I had made up my mind at a very, very early age, that I was going to succeed. And I was going to make a life of myself, and I was going to put into use the education that I had, and I was going to work hard. I have always been a very, very hardworking woman, and I still continue to be.
So when you come to Bombay, I'm going to skip the Calcutta
Yes,
part, which
yes.
you tried domesticity to a large extent, and then you go to again to Jamshedpur, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
right? And you
yes.
try to be the good housewife, and it doesn't work because
But it's not me.
it's not you, and
Yeah.
the lack of ambition in your husband, unable to bear the knocks that he's getting, frustrate you, and you want to
Yeah.
move out and do
Right,
something on your own.
right.
So you come to Bombay, and you branch out, and there you meet Peter, and it's quite obvious that he's smitten by you, but you don't find anything very fascinating about him other than the fact that he's a good successful. So even though you get married, it's quite clear that there is this lack of chemistry, at least because everything else in the book you speak with such
Passion.
warmth and passion, whereas this is a marriage which seems like two professionals getting into an arrangement. I'm sorry if I sound a little harsh in saying that, but it seemed like he was putting you down right from the word go, and he was admiring you as a good looking person, but at the same time
Yes.
threatened by you.
Again, I don't want to, since I have written so much already in my book, but I think what really started bothering me after a point in time is that I needed to be appreciated as a person by my husband and not just a good looking woman. Forget about the career side of it. So I still remember this one conversation, which I have not actually written in my book, but it is going to be, perhaps I should tell you, because I have just remembered as we were speaking, and you've actually hit the nail on the head, that it was, I think, just that undermining that which got me actually more riled up, I think. I remember there was a conversation that we were having where actually Peter had said that I do not even fall in the 1% of the population of India. I means he was talking about himself. So it was something, so basically he was telling me that you don't understand who I am. But it is just, all these things are all ups and downs in lives. We all have ups and downs in life. But again, I think there is a side to this whole thing, to our marriage, to our relationship, to the people we are, that the outside world does not necessarily see
Sure.
that I have seen.
The reason I'm going into your marriage, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as if I want to invade your privacy, but there is the
My
whole,
life is an open book,
Is-
and in the real sense, now it is
Yeah.
a book. So it has been, narrated in different ways.
Sure.
But
I didn't, Indrani, in all those TV debates or whatever, I didn't write or report on any of that.
I know that.
was-
I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
And
so
which is
I
why,
didn't.
and thank you so much for that, because
I didn't, because I didn't know you and I didn't know about
Yes.
the case, so I didn't
Yes.
talk
Thank
about
you so
that.
much for that.
So, but I still want to know, why was it? I'm going to read out some of these portions which these were people, Bombay socialites, or I don't know what you want to call them, but they were the people who were on TV screens at that time. So there's Queenie, who said that she's lived in South Bombay, and she had, she spoke to you, that she spoke about you, that you were an outsider. Bombay is known for outsiders who made it. So it's not as if all these people were born in Bombay. Then there was, the word ambitious keeps coming in all
Yes.
those TV debates. I saw a whole bunch of them all over again. Then Visangvi said that she had delusions of grandeur and was obsessed about being a media baron, which I would think
Again,
from Murdoch onwards.
translates to being ambitious.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
So-
then there was Tavleen Singh, who also said on Karan Thapar's show that she comes across as the most heartless woman.
And she never
known.
explained why I'm the heartless woman, but anyway.
In another interview I saw where she said that once you are a mother, then every other role goes to the side, or something to that effect. Then there was Rishi Kapoor, who you mention again. But these are just some of them. There were many more that
Of course,
who
yeah.
came on TV debates. You didn't speak about all that because you could have listed them. There were like,
I could have listed, in my book would not have been then 400 pages. I think it would have been 4,000 pages.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But that would have made for a magazine article rather than a publisher's book, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you didn't see all this because you were in jail.
Yes, that's correct. In fact, I was on and off informed by my lawyers about these things, but so I would kind of find out, or when I'm in court, if I'm watching something. But, this information was coming to me. It wasn't that I never knew about it. And occasionally I would, see it on television. I would
But
see
then
these.
in jail, they would make
They
sure.
would, yeah, because they wouldn't like me to get upset. Because to be very fair, I think the jail, whether they were the officers or they were the prisoners, they became my family and my protectors at
Jail
that
ki
point.
ladli is what you were
Yes,
called.
yes. And they were very, very good to me. And I must admit that, and I have said it again and again. I think I survived and I stayed unbroken because of them. And it's a fact. So they were very protective, but there were times I would still suddenly put on the TV and I'd see things, right? But my lawyers, to be very fair, kept me informed about these conversations. And there were times I would kind of feel, initially I used to be a bit upset. But then after that, again, being from the media background myself, I did realize how all of this works. And I think for a lot of people, particularly a lot of fading stars who still believe they want to exist, I think it was a moment, their moment in the sun. And all these people who have spoken about me, I think I don't want to talk about their lives because their lives are of no interest to me. Half of them I don't know. But like you rightly said, you said something very important. For example, again, I don't want to kind of, dignify all these stupid comments, but a lot of them are outsiders themselves. A lot of people have gone. I can put my hand on my heart and say that I may have been married more than once, but I have never broken a home because I have never been responsible ever for the breakup of a marriage. I have never dated a married man. I have never dated anybody who's been in a relationship or, broken marriages to get married. So I can say that with authority. And so I really haven't hurt anyone. But a lot of these people who have gone out and spoken have done these kind of things. Okay, so I think people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. I think they live in more fragile glass houses than I do. So I think they should just, watch their mouths before they speak, because when you have so many skeletons in your own cupboard, you should not talk about other people. And I think people have a lot of time to talk about me, so that is one thing which is, I think, very...
But you realize that
Yeah.
here you are a media baron,
Yeah.
and then the scandal breaks out, and then there's a body, of course.
And then about the body, what happened, right? About the DNA expert.
It's there in the book. So those who
So-
haven't yet read the book, just
Yes.
if you could just briefly tell us that when, because that whole thing about when the body came, that you were shocked because you couldn't believe initially. I mean, there's
Yes.
almost a whole chapter where you are unable to come to terms that Sheena is dead.
Not alive
Yes.
anymore. Yes, absolutely. So it took me that is something people don't want to, probably can't relate to, or don't consciously want to relate to, that there is a grieving mother inside. When they talk about a good mother and a bad mother, that is the grief they don't see, So the thing here is, initially when we received the charge sheet and I saw the reports, obviously I did not understand what a DNA report looks like. But I do recollect very, very clearly that when Sudeep Pasbola, who was my trial lawyer at that point, he just asked me one simple question when he met me, which is very interesting, that I need to know that as your lawyer, I am going to defend you. I need to know one thing: are you guilty or not guilty?
Of
And
murder?
obviously.
Or conspiracy or hiding?
Or anything
Okay.
connected to this case, you need to tell me that. Because if you tell me that you are guilty, and this is because I've not written in detail about it in the book, but I will still talk about it, then I will decide on how much to ask for. But if you are telling me you are innocent, then I am going to take out every single piece of evidence that has not been produced here, because I am going to prove that all of this is all bogus. And which is exactly what he did, because then he told me, he said, a DNA report is not one sheet of paper. You need to understand that there is a full process of documentation, and there is a raw data that comes before this, and which is in the form of an electropherogram. It's like a cardiogram.
Okay.
So which basically, when you put in any sample, whether it's a blood sample or a bone sample, so the machine automatically, starts printing, the machine prints it, prints that the electropherogram, like how we have it in the cardiogram, right? That electropherogram where it takes the peaks of the allele numbers. And that can only be machine printed. So when we asked for the data, finally, just before the DNA expert, who was Mr. Lade, he came to testify, we asked for the raw data. And that was the point, my lawyers said that we are going to win this. Because when we saw the raw data and we saw those electropherograms, each and every, a large portion of the electropherograms, the numbers were cut out, the machine printed numbers were cut out and changed to match my blood sample. And
This is not there in the book.
yeah, that is why I'm elaborating on it right now, because
Wow.
now this thing is in an open court. My trial is in an open court, and people report only as much as they want to report, right? So which is convenient, and which
It's
also
shocking
creates,
what you're saying.
Yes. And so Mr. Lade, who is the DNA expert, actually admitted, because our defense lawyers confronted him with the electropherogram and said, isn't this supposed to be only machine printed? He said, yes. And then after that, they said, but there are, handwritten changes here to the numbers. And then he said that I have changed it. So, and from that, finally the DNA report was that one sheet of paper was attached
to that. Besides the DNA, there's also the forensics that you talk about in great detail about that, the skull. And these are two things which come up, and then the sighting of Sheena. Are those three things a major reason, or three major reasons why the judge probably gave you bail?
See, I am not going to talk about the decisions of the court right now, because the matter is sub judice. So I don't want to talk about the decisions. But what I can talk about is the evidence that has already come on record, because the trial is in an open court. But whatever has come on record, I can talk about that, which is it's already been reported.
Fine.
In thousands of pages by several people. Some concocted it, some very few people reported facts. But anyway, okay. So, and these, I know it's this is, here we are talking about my daughter. Okay, so it is not very easy. But having been involved in this case, for me, I think talking about skulls and bones and DNA and all of that has almost become a part of my life, because it is important. For me, the essential thing is, obviously, first part was to find out whether, you forget about the allegations on me. That is the least of the concerns at this point. I needed to find out whether that body really belonged to Sheena. That is that was important for me because I needed to know whether she was alive or not. That was the most important kind of driving force for me because somehow, somewhere, I still couldn't believe it at the back of my mind. So the DNA, of course, the moment the DNA expert came in, admitted. And in fact, when he was testifying at that point, he was already suspended for, again, not for one kind of this thing, for two other cases where he had done something very similar. He was already suspended. So those are the kind of people we rely upon for reports. Anyway.
The forensics.
Forensics.
Yeah.
This I'm talking about the DNA. Now coming back to... So when we had received the charge sheet, the postmortem report... So in this entire case, there are also two bodies. Now, allegedly for one murder, there are two. It is almost like if this doesn't work out, we will talk about the other one. It is almost... I've never heard of... Now I've done a lot of studying of several cases over a period of time. So I've never seen or heard about anything like this in my life, except for my own case. So apparently in 2012, this is as per the statement, as per the case, that is the crux of the case, that in 2012 May, apparently, which of course they state in 2015, somewhere in a part of Maharashtra, in a remote part of Maharashtra, a body was found, and that body, a postmortem was done on that body. And a postmortem report was prepared by a doctor, Sanjay Thakur, who works with the government. He's from a government hospital. And as per that postmortem report, which is a part of the charge sheet, it says very clearly, no brain matter. So obviously when he came to depose, the defense lawyers had asked at that point that how did you check whether there was brain matter or no? So he volunteered this information, saying that I had used a saw to make a circular cut on the skull. I cut open the skull and removed the skull cap and then saw that there was no brain matter, right?
That means the body had been rotting and that's why this brain matter goes. How does a brain matter go?
No, you forget about that part of it. Okay, that is of no relevance at this point in time.
All right.
Okay, so we are talking with the skull. Now, of course, as per the charge sheet, that same body, was allegedly supposed to be my daughter's body, right? Of course, also there was no DNA test done on that body. So I don't know how they came to that conclusion. On that particular body, there was
in 2012.
In 2012. But anyway, so their claim was that body which was found in 2012 is the same skeleton that they brought and presented in court. But what they did was they came and presented a skull which is intact. There is not even a single mark on the skull. So, and which has been confirmed. We've all seen it, okay? That skull that they presented, confirmed by the head of forensics from Nair Hospital, also by the head of forensics from AIIMS. They have confirmed that the skull that has been produced is an intact skull. So, how does a skull that has been cut open with a saw become an intact skull 3 years later? Correct?
Is that when you had inkling that...
I did not have an inkling. I was convinced.
Okay.
I was convinced. Obviously, I knew there was foul play. There was no doubt about it. That was never a doubt in my mind. So this thing, in fact, came out even before the DNA thing, right? So, I mean, that obviously gave me, reasons to believe. And then came the DFSL messages which were retrieved from Rahul Mukherjee's phone, right? And those are not retrieved from somebody else's phone. It's his phone. He had given the phone. The messages were out from his phone, and those have been again forensically taken out by DFSL. It's DFSL certified, where it establishes that even well after, like there are very intimate conversations in that, well after that alleged date of her disappearance, Sheena's disappearance, there were a lot of communications to the extent like, okay, I'm waiting downstairs, you come down, I go up, okay, I'm coming to pick you up, and it continues. So one day there can be a mistake. It cannot be a continuous series of mistakes.
So there are many people at that time who were reporting and said that Sheena's phone was probably with you and you were...
correct. That was their statement was then. But are you trying to tell me that a person is continuing to pick up that person, whoever is carrying the phone, let's say whether it is XYZ carrying Sheena's phone, so who is he picking up every day? Who is he collecting every day? Who is he having food with? So there are messages to that extent which continue for a period of 2 weeks continuously, where they are ordering for food. I am sitting downstairs, you come down, you come up, okay, so let's kind of 5 minutes, and there's a pattern. So are you trying to tell me that Rahul has had this conversation with her spirit every single day and collecting her from wherever she was working and ordering food? So who was he doing all this with? Every single day. Every single day.
And he also reports Sheena missing.
No, he does not. That is a lie. He does not report her missing anywhere. And that he has admitted, that he has not filed any complaint anywhere. And prosecution, despite his earlier claims, I went out, there is no police station which has anything to establish that ever Rahul Mukherjee went anywhere to file a missing complaint. There is no record of... In fact, I was the only one who approached the police when she was missing. And in fact, there are tapes on record which establish where I am telling Rahul, I will go with you to the police station. He doesn't show up.
Phone tapes.
Yeah, phone tapes which have been retrieved from his phone, where I have said that I will go with you to the police station. But he never comes. And when I'm in Bombay, he just doesn't show up. I called him to the house, let's go. But he doesn't, and it's all on record. And again, let me also reiterate this. Also, and which is where, I mean, not that I'm very happy with a lot of things that were said, in debates at that point. But there was something which was pointed out, I don't want to name the anchor, but by one of the anchors, while I was in prison. And I think that, this entire story about, nobody knew, there is a full conversation on tape that is happening where, I am referring to Sheena Peters in that conversation. Rahul is in that conversation. All of us are referring to Sheena as my daughter. All of us. So where is this entire thing coming from that nobody knew about it? And that is on record.
Nobody knew that Sheena is your daughter. That's what you mean.
When I'm saying nobody, here I'm implying
Peter.
Peter, right. So there is a full conversation. So he doesn't sound shocked there, or he's not... I mean, he's saying it, I'm saying it, Rahul is saying it. It's an open conversation.
No, Peter did say that Sheena told him that that she is the biological daughter.
But that he said much later, right? So initially when I was arrested, I have seen those interviews.
In which he says he didn't know.
He said, I am in a state of shock. I am shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be venting now, but it's... I shouldn't, but really, you are having a full-blown conversation about, it is all right. After all, she's just gone with the mother. And then 3 years later, you just turn around and you say on television you were clueless.
So there's a whole conspiracy, there are so many open ends out here. And there was also that whole...
Today I decided, Smita, sorry for that, I was not going to talk about Peter, and I don't want you to ask me anything about Peter anymore,
Okay.
because it just,
Yeah.
just unnecessarily kind of gets me, again, emotionally kind of into a bit of a turmoil, because it just, I don't want to, he is my past, and this book is a closure. I do feel very sad about the fact that I should not have been abandoned the way I was. And
17 years of marriage.
17 years of marriage. And I think...
And somebody said it's a quickie divorce. That also happened.
Well, it was a quickie divorce because I think I did not want to waste 10 years of my life fighting for maintenance and properties. And
you
a lot
were
of
all
women
through-
do that.
All
So-
through, you keep talking about how financially you were fine. You were...
Absolutely.
At one point of time, you mentioned some 60 jewelry sets or something, 6 crores that Peter had transferred to, of yours, which Peter has
Yes.
transferred. You said, I'm going to read that out. And I'm reading
Yes.
out these portions so that you guys, those who want to buy the book, will know that, there are certain facts which didn't get reported. The years from 2015 to 2019 were traumatic for me. The understanding was that she wasn't there anymore. There was a body, rather a skeleton, that matched my DNA, thus leading to the deduction it was Sheena's. I was in my 30s. We decided to go live in England. I was 37 years old. I gave up everything to make him happy. I lived my life to suit his desires, his needs. I could have stayed back, got a job in a corporate company. And then Indrani goes on to say, and a third, I was left financially unstable and access to my funds was taken away. By then, I had mustered courage to fight my battles. From my account, 6 crores were moved to Peter's son's accounts.
That is correct.
And then you also talk about jewelry sets, several jewelry sets,
It
which
was,
which were you supposed to go to your daughters.
Almost 70 sets of jewelry. When I'm talking about sets, I mean sets, so it's not pieces.
Necklace,
of
earrings, bracelets, everything together.
And which,
yeah, okay.
a lot of it, I mean almost all of it, is my ancestral jewelry, which has come from both sides. And I've written about it. And
Yes.
there is a full panchnama, memorandum when the court finally passed an order to say that the jewelry has to be returned to her. So this was a court direction. And Peter was in prison, I was in prison, and the CBI escorted us, where there was this, we had to go through this entire procedure where he had to finally return all of that to me. So it was kept for my children. So so it is not really, you forget the jewelry, forget everything. You know what really
No, that's crores
baffles
of-
me? Yeah, that's crores. But it is not so much the crores. You know what really I still cannot understand, and I do not have an answer to it as of now, that your wife is arrested. All you can think about is stopping a transfer of a flat to Vidhi the same day, the day of the arrest. Is that really? You think about transferring funds from my account. You write to me saying that I don't have money to pay for lawyers, so you need to, wherever I don't have access into your accounts, you need to give me access, and you transfer 6 crores. You go around moving jewelry, and you don't make my children a party to those lockers and to accounts. You make your sons a party to those, accounts and to those lockers. So
And you
that is
write-
what is
Yeah,
really very, very upsetting, because I would have really understood if at that point Peter would have done all of that in joint names with, let us say, he's very angry with me and he doesn't want me to have anything, that if Vidhi was a part of it, if Vidhi, Mikhail, his sons, everybody was made a joint holder in those lockers and accounts, I would have understood.
You keep writing about this, that you initially start signing the checks or whatever,
Yeah.
because you believe that you both are in jail. Peter's in jail,
Right.
you're in jail, and you're fighting this case as a couple.
Couple, correct.
But
correct.
it strikes you at some point of time that he has abandoned and he's fighting a separate battle. Did he at some point of time think that you're responsible and you have killed Sheena?
See, that is not what he has told me, to be very honest, okay? Because when I met him in court, I had asked him this question, and straight on, that, tell me something, do you, somewhere at the back of your mind, did you ever? He said, no, absolutely not. And he said that I have always continued to maintain, which I don't know, but I think the impression he gave outside was very different anyway. But he said that I have always told everyone that Indrani is absolutely clueless. That is what he has told me. And perhaps if you ever interview him, you can ask him this question. But he has told me this, that I have told the CBI, I have told everybody, Indrani cannot give directions or take Old Goa Road, and she's clueless about, if you turn her around here, she wouldn't know how to come back home. And which is a fact.
And the driver had also left Shamvar.
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
talked about. He was an older guy.
Older guy. So, I mean, where all these stories have come. But now in hindsight, Smita, when I think back, I do believe that somebody definitely wanted me to go to prison. That is a given, because, sometimes you think that you don't have enemies, but clearly I do, because everybody came out claws and daggers the moment I went into prison. I didn't even...
is it a bit any rivals?
No, I didn't. But very clearly everyone came out, and a lot of people had to say a lot of nasty things about me, right?
But those are like the society
those
bitching,
are the
kind of a
bitching
thing.
kind of things.
Yeah, but not enough to implicate you in a murder.
Yes,
that also
yes.
of your own daughter.
Right.
Unless there was some financial. Did you lose a lot of money at the end of it, other than fighting legal battles? Because there was also this whole talk that there were hundreds of crores kept in some money, and Sheena probably was
Sheena had 1 lakh in her account, which after all the investigations that came out, like a 23-year-old would have, right? So those are stories, because obviously nobody has been able to really come out with a real motive. There has to be a motive. So, I don't think this whole story of, they were against the relationship is really going to fly.
That was also there, that you were against Rahul.
So that
and which is also
really somehow...
Which you have said in the book, that wouldn't you have killed Rahul
Yeah,
then?
exactly. I mean, why do I... And they were living together for over 3 years. So one fine morning, why would anybody decide to just wake up and say, okay, we don't want this relationship anymore? So that's a bit odd, right? And it was not like they were in hiding, right? They were openly living together. So it's just somehow,
it wasn't adding up.
It just was. It still doesn't add up.
Okay, let me get on to
but coming back to, since we were talking about the sighting. The sighting of Sheena's thing, I lost track of things while I just got a bit emotional. But yes, now let me also put it on record that a lot of people have put out reports saying that I have claimed Sheena is alive. So I want to put it on record, I have never claimed that Sheena is alive or that I have seen Sheena, because I have neither seen Sheena nor met her. So this is not my claim. Yes, however, having said and done, there are people who have made these claims. Not only have they made these claims, a very reputed lawyer has taken, her colleague has taken, who's another lawyer, has taken a video footage, and the Honourable Court has also got the CCTV footage, which is now kept in a sealed envelope in court. So obviously these decisions have been taken after the video has been perused, right? So there is a reason why the Honourable Court also perhaps has allowed that CCTV footage to come in. Because of the forensics that point in the direction, very clearly, that there is a very strong possibility of Sheena being alive. And there is an affidavit to that effect. So nobody needs to, and the other person who had apparently met Sheena happens to be a police officer from the crime branch. So all these people, I mean, that person doesn't know me. So why would anyone go out of their way or put their neck on line for something like this?
So, mothers and daughters have complicated
Yeah.
relationships, and there are n number of mothers and daughters who've had estrangement or whatever reason,
Right,
love affairs
right,
or money or
right.
property or whatever.
It could be
right?
anything. Yeah, it's
So you not being in touch with Sheena, understandable with the
Right.
kind of life that both of you have led and
Right.
the trauma that
Right.
involved her birth and her bringing up. That fine. But after, if Sheena was alive and she saw what was happening, why would she not get in touch with you, Indrani?
See, that is one thing I honestly don't have an answer to. And it is rather baffling that why would she continue to hide? And she's hiding in plain sight if she's around, right? If she's spotted at an airport or
In
if
Guwahati.
she is, yeah, or if she's spotted, let's say, in Kashmir.
In Kashmir, yeah.
Yeah, these are the two places that have been named. See, one thing is very clearly established that Sheena was definitely alive well after that alleged date of her disappearance. Okay, that is established already. That is not, it is also established that 2012, whatever, obviously, body cannot be hers because, they have come back with a different skull. So it cannot be that if it is the same, this thing. So these things have been established. However, I cannot understand that why would somebody continue to hide like this knowing that her mother has been in jail for so many years and is still doing everything possible to find her. Why would she continue to hide until and unless there is something much, much bigger to this whole thing? Which I really
But
do not
everybody believed,
know.
like, Mikhail didn't hunt for her when she was missing.
See, that is what kind of really gets me. Now, there is, for example, and there are no answers to these things, Now, apparently on the 24th, after that, as per Rahul claims that, he has not met Sheena after that. But the whole of 26th of April, the entire day he spends with the driver, Shamvar Rai. So isn't it very odd that he does not ask the driver the entire day, where is she now, where did you drop her? And nobody, that day of 26th, I was not in Bombay, is not mentioned. Nobody talks a word about 26th. That 26th of April is a very important day because and these are really very, very funny situations because the driver doesn't talk about meeting him till he was grilled that you actually spent the entire day with Rahul, didn't you? And Rahul doesn't talk about it anywhere in his statement till he was probed. And then he continued denying it.
That's the day the body is found.
No.
What happened on 26th April?
See, as per his claim, he was running around trying to file police reports.
Okay.
But the whole of 26th, he spends the entire day with Peter and Shamvar Rai. So why would you not? Peter is an influential guy. He knows all the police, cops, everyone. Why would you not just go with your father to file a police complaint? A. B. Would you even not? You knew very well that as per his own claim, he saw Sheena with the driver. He claims that, right? So you don't ask the driver where he dropped her or what happened. Do you not find it very odd that a day after the disappearance, you spend the entire day with the driver, but you don't ask the driver where is she?
And right in the beginning, you're told by this top cop
Yeah.
that admit to it, otherwise you'll be hanged in.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And he then goes out of the equation
Right.
at some point of time.
Right.
In this. I'm going to come, now that we've spoken so much, let me come to your career. You set up INX and this business in which Peter decides to become a part of it.
Right.
And then now that also runs into trouble. Investors come in, it doesn't work. And then the whole thing about you writing to Arun Jaitley, who's the finance minister, and you turn approver in this case. And I'm going to quote in this, in which she said, Peter and I had gone to meet P Chidambaram, who was then the finance minister, and a deal had been struck. Some say, I quote, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, unquote. Money was given to Karti, Chidambaram's son, and the company. Now, there's this whole thing about lakhs which were given to him, which is a separate news report which came in, with the CBI is quoted in that. That's separate. In your book, you don't mention the amount which Karti. Now, this happens and that becomes another thing. Karti gets arrested, Chidambaram gets arrested. You are in jail when all this is happening.
That's correct.
You get to know about all this, that you have, because of what happened at that time. So what's going on in your mind at that time when now you're in a political mess too?
No, I think that political mess, now in hindsight, see, this is a realization for me. And it took me a long time to realize it. And particularly when I came out of prison. And I realize it even now. Okay, so particularly after writing this book, it is again, so this is not really ended. I don't think it has ended as yet. These conversations really started because at the back of my mind, I somehow, there is something called the woman's intuition, if you believe in it. I do believe. But I was having these conversations with Peter for a very, very long time, that I think at some point or the other, we need to come out with this, because it is going to come to bite us at some point. And it did. So when the government changed, which was in 2014, I think towards the end, I was in England. I'd moved to England several years prior to that. I think in 2009, I moved to England. So I think
the company had gone under.
That was like, there was this whole economic meltdown, global meltdown, and, there was no funds coming in. No, I'm talking about 2014. So that was the point. I did have a chat with Peter. And the frequency of those conversations became more and more, because somehow, somewhere I felt that, I think it is best that now the government has changed. We can go and report
and
this.
And he said, let sleeping dogs lie.
Lie. I have also mentioned that.
That's exactly
right. That's exactly, and that's very Peter way of talking. So, and also I think, to be very fair to him also, nobody wants to get into all this mess. We've never been to, at least I've never been to a police station in my life before this. I've never had to meet lawyers apart from the divorce that I had with Sanjeev. I've never met a lawyer in my life till then. So, for any other reasons, for any criminal issues or frauds or whatever. But as the conversations, started increasing more and more, I think it also, there was a level of, I think, discomfort that started happening in our kind of own relationships, So that is something. On hindsight, I realize it.
And then the CBI officers come to you and...
No, now that is, I'm talking about still 2014 and then 15. We are now moving to 2015. And 4-5 months later, I am arrested. And as you are aware, I don't know if you are aware, the case was not a CBI case. The case was, under
INX, Enforcement Directorate.
No. I'm talking about
Sheena's case.
Sheena's case was
Mumbai Police.
And it was headed by Rakesh Maria. I am absolutely, now when I look back, I'm convinced that somebody didn't want me to speak. And I was obviously put behind bars clearly because of that. And it was... I realize who did it, I cannot say, because without evidence, I can't really say this. But somebody did not want me to speak. That is a given. And I think at that point, I didn't think it was connected perhaps to this case or, I think people also started realizing that there was some digging on going on in the INX matter. People with information would know all of this. And there were only two people who could speak about it, right? One was Peter and the other was me. Right? So,
But for these two cases to be interlinked, Sheena would have to be party to that. Otherwise, it was she who was missing.
It is, sometimes I think it's a bit far-fetched. Sometimes I think that, I really, honestly, Smita, I don't know. But all of this was not a coincidence. Trust me, even my arrest, I have written about that, my arrest a day before my younger daughter's 18th birthday is not a coincidence. Because the next day, for example, on the 26th of August 2015, a day before I was arrested, this entire property, which was supposed to be transferred to Vidhi, and then a stay was put to it by Peter. The moment I was arrested a day before her 18th birthday. So it is very apparent that, it was done to stop that.
And it's not as if they were in poverty, because you do mention
but greed there is no measure of greed. And when you are greedy, there is it's a pitiless kind of,
Because you do mention that all the children were taken care of. One son was given a house in England, another son another place.
But that place that was supposed to go to Vidhi was ultimately moved to his son, right?
The Marlowe apartment.
Yes, that's what happened. And also, like, for example, I mentioned this, that why would you want to move all my jewelry to your sons? That's a bit odd. When it's my ancestral jewelry, why not give it to Mikhail? Why not give it to Vidhi? Let us assume for that one moment that Sheena was not around. Why not them? Mikhail was an adult. So what happened? So why was he not included in that?
When the CBI comes to you, you say, I requested to meet the head of CBI at that time. Alok Verma was CBI director.
That's correct.
And Rakesh Asthana was the special CBI director. CBI, Central Bureau for Investigation, for overseas viewers and listeners, just to explain that. And at that time, there was this tussle going on between Mr. Asthana and Alok Verma. So there were fissures in the Central Bureau of Investigation. In May 2014, the investigative wing or the Central Bureau of Direct Taxes compiled a tax history of the INX group and suggested that the Mukerjeas had laundered 275.5 crore rupees via Mauritius into 8 INX group subsidiary companies between 2007 and 2008. Another newspaper report of 2018 says that Indrani Mukerjea had told CBI that $1 million deal had been struck between Karti Chidambaram and the Mukerjeas to secure FIPB approval in favor of INX Media. In October 2018, the Enforcement Directorate seized assets of Karti Chidambaram worth 54 crore rupees, including properties in New Delhi, Karnataka, Ooty, UK, Spain, in relation to the INX Media case. Karti and his father call it political vendetta. You say that days after the statement was recorded, Karti Chidambaram was arrested, and you meet with them in court, don't you? So,
I meet Karti in prison.
In prison?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
So, at that time, did you suspect anything? That there was a plot, there was a conspiracy?
No, it was more of my conversations with Peter over a period of time that led me to understand and believe very strongly. And I have also written it very openly in my book that he knew about my arrest, because Peter was the only person who knew that day where I was going. Nobody else knew about it. So,
which day?
On the day of my arrest. Even my driver didn't know where I was going. So it's all that is one part of it. And over a period of time, the conversations that I was having with Peter, because even during that period, I was under a lot of pressure, not to come out with the truth. I was under a lot of pressure. So but I took the stand.
The pressure on you to, which truth are you talking about?
I'm
now?
talking about when we are talking about the INX case. Yeah. So
okay.
I was under a lot of pressure. There are documents. So whether I say it or I don't say it, there are signatures, there are documents. So I do believe, very honestly, Smita, that there is, a much bigger game to this whole thing. And I think we were just pawns, and that's it. We means definitely me. And I think sometimes, and these are all again opinions in my own thinking. I think Peter also got kind of, caught in this whole thing for being too smart about it. I think all he needed to do was, the day I was arrested, just do everything possible to get me out. That was it. Which I think just didn't, somehow it didn't fly with people.
Can I ask you if you're in touch with him again? I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No, I am in touch in the sense I meet him in court. And I would like to ask him a lot of questions, which I did ask him several questions as and when I have met him in court. He does not have answers to those questions. And I never think I don't think he'll ever have answers. But in my heart, I know now. So I don't think he can ever answer those questions, ever.
He's had a messed up life too. His first marriage goes for a toss. Then he tries to reconnect with her, even though he's married to you. And then his 2 sons live abroad.
And he's had a relationship in between that for almost 12 years. So it's not that, so Peter was single Peter was with somebody else and then single when I met him. So for almost 12 years. So it's been, it's a bit messy anyway.
You speak in your book very affectionately about your younger daughter, Vidhi, even though the older one, you had a strange relationship, which is understandable considering the circumstances. With Vidhi, you've had a warmth all through. She comes to see you in court and she asks for help, but at the same time she knows that for survival she needs to be with her father's side of the family because there's nobody in the mother's side of the family, and she's a young girl.
Correct.
Now all your children battle with substance abuse because of traumas at different parts of time. You didn't.
No, I never did.
You've been
very, very, I think, strong, and just to put it on record, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Forget about substance abuse. No, I used to drink earlier, but I've never smoked ever. Even I've never smoked a cigarette. So I'm just letting you know. But I don't drink.
Yeah.
And,
so for those people who think that it's, that's an option, just, the hard life that Indrani's led, she hasn't succumbed to that pressure. But you are understanding about the reasons why they have at some point of time, and you reach across. Vidhi, in the introduction, if I'm not mistaken, you said that somewhere you just shut yourself even from Vidhi. And you said, I just want to be on my own now.
See, I don't shut myself from anyone even now. But I think I have no expectations from it. My father wronged me. I don't feel that he has wronged me. And I would not use such strong words as far as my mother goes as being wronged. But yes, she could have been stronger and she should have stood by me. But bygones are bygones. But when they reached out to me and they needed my support, I was there for them.
When you rebuilt the house and things.
It's that, and I took care of them till the end. I was the one who went out. Even when they passed away, I took court permission and I went and did the Shraddh. So that that was the day I think I truly forgave my father, the day I did his Shraddh, and I wanted his soul to rest in peace, and that was that. But
you did the Shraddh in Bombay? Even.
Yes. Yeah. I did the Shraddh in Bombay. And I would like to again put it on record that whether it is Peter, or whether it is, I've of course I felt very hurt even by my son, Mikhail. But if tomorrow any of them were to need me and they were in trouble and I was in a position to help them, I would. So if tomorrow, if Peter is sick and, there's nobody to look after him, I would still do it. I would still do it because...
Don't you realize, Indrani, I mean, I'm sitting from the outside, I shouldn't be
Yeah,
judging you,
yeah.
but don't you see that's what has led to all your troubles in life, where
Yeah, but I am who I am.
anybody reaches out to you,
Yeah.
even if you're wronged, you jump in to help, or you jump into that relationship, or whatever it is, and then again there's trouble.
Yeah, but that is life, isn't it? I mean, two things, change is the only constant in life. And when we use big words like empathy and forgiveness, I think we all need to learn to, walk the talk. Otherwise, it's pointless, right? So I think I am a person who would still, of course, I am detached. I have no expectations. When Vidhi filed an application in court to say, I want to go and live with my mother. And similarly, tomorrow, you never know when tables turn with anybody. Every dog has its day, right? So, and I would not but gloat if somebody reaches out to me, whoever it is. A lot of people have wronged me, knowingly or unknowingly, or in the circumstances they were in. But I think, I have made also, and I know what it is, to feel like when you're abandoned and when you have nobody really supporting you. I know nobody knows or understands this better than me. So I do believe that if somebody swallows his or her pride and is able to reach out to me despite, being unfair to me, then I think me turning my back on them would be a very inhuman act.
What about those people who went on television? Did any of them contact you once you came out on bail?
No.
Nobody.
Nobody's contacted me.
Do you regret not having that life again which you had in Bombay? All those parties that you went to, the celebrities that you met, you don't want to go back to that again? Or do you miss it?
No, I don't miss it. Actually, I do have a very good set of friends, and a lot of people... I don't have shallow friends now. That's the difference. I have a lot of friends who are not necessarily out there on everybody's faces, but they are from all types of backgrounds, whether they are from extremely privileged backgrounds or, they have to worry about, 2 square meals a day. So I have friends from different walks of life now, and they are very, very interesting people, and they are very, very genuine people,
And your battle continues, right, Indrani? It's not all over as yet.
Oh, absolutely not, because I think that is going to continue all my life, It is not easy to be Indrani Mukerjea, I can tell you.
No,
that.
it isn't. After reading that book, it's not.
Yeah, it is not easy, but also I would not want to be anybody else but be Indrani, because not everybody is as strong as Indrani Mukerjea. And I think, one message out to everybody, is that you need to believe in yourself before believing in anyone else. I mean, there have been people, so it is, of course, people went on record to say, and this is really funny, and now I laugh about it. For example, why I colored my hair. And the funny part is all these anchors are in their 50s and 70s who really have a big debate about why I'm coloring my hair, but they are, of course, evergreen, right? They don't have a single grey hair on their head, right?
But you realize why?
It's funny, it's...
Because you were this glamorous person who led this fabulous life, and then
I still lead a fabulous life. And I continued to lead a fabulous life even when I was in prison.
That's okay.
That was the problem.
When I meant fabulous, what I meant to say is that many people would look at that life and say that, it's like when Deepika Padukone came out and talked about depression. people I knew, my aunts and everybody around me, and I was like, how can Deepika, such a beautiful,
Yes.
successful person,
Be depressed.
be depressed?
Yeah.
So that's what happened when you came out of jail with the white hair.
Oh,
Then
white
it was
hair.
like, oh my God, look what she's become. That happened. And then when you came out with colored hair, it was like, oh, okay, P, you actually get.
So you're damned if you do it, you're damned if you don't. That's
So
the
when you
thing,
came out, it's like, oh, okay, she's appealing to sympathy by wearing salwar kameez, as compared to the, pardon my language, because it's a podcast, I can say it, the sexy saris and blouses that you were wearing,
Yeah.
and you had an aura about you, Indrani. And then
Thank
you
you.
come out of jail, and everybody was like, oh my God, this is the deglamorized. So there was some people who were actually, okay, there is a deglamorized version of Indrani too.
Yeah.
So there was that too, that envy translating into those horns which came out.
Came out. The thing is, the first few months, till I realized, obviously, that, it's a bogus charge sheet, till I realized that completely, that there were so many loopholes. See, I was also dealing with multiple emotions. One is obviously the grief of perhaps having lost a child. The other is abandonment. So it was never really the creature comforts which bothered me, honestly. It didn't. In fact, you get used to that very quickly, very, very quickly. And unlike what people think, that I have a lot of needs and I'm very desirous of creature comforts, I'm actually not. Having a successful career does not equate to always wanting good things in life or wanting a life of luxury. Okay, so I think people are very confused about what ambition is and what greed is. So ambition doesn't equate to greed, as being a good mother or a bad mother doesn't equate to being a murderer. Okay, so I think people need to differentiate between the two. So for me, adjusting, having to sleep on a floor, or I've always been a very small eater.
No
So
showers, just a bucket and
just a
mug.
bucket. And in
You
fact,
mentioned
the
that.
first day when I went into prison, I was looking for a flush. I didn't know. I said, oh my God, now there's no flush. So, but you get used to all those things, over a period, and it takes very little time.
But 2,460 days as an under trial.
Yes. So that is, no, I will just finish my part about my hair, because
Hair.
that is that has been like, there have been debates about it. On
TV
this
debates,
thing.
yes.
TV debates, and really seriously, that was a TV debate. I couldn't even believe it. But anyway, and in multiple channels. So I actually did not see hair colors and mehendi. All of that was kajals. All these things are available in prison, right? It's not a torture chamber, it's a holding house. So all of that was available, but I could not bring myself really to go and really groom myself at that point, because I was...
The trauma, yeah.
Yeah, the trauma had a fall. But when I collected myself and I brought myself, put my pieces together, I needed also to feel good about, unlike what people like to believe, that you don't always color your hair, or you wear lipstick or kajal, or you dress up to lure people. You do it for yourself. And 90% of the women, I think, just do it just to feel good. That is what I think, Smita, you do, I do.
Yeah.
And a lot of women do, which I think people need to understand that. And also, it is not a criminal offense to feel good about yourself, So that also is... So people actually forgot about the case. It was about in fact, one day to court, I wore a white salwar kameez, and one very senior journalist, you would know about it, I don't want to take the name right now, wrote a column, oh my God, she must have got a designer to get that white salwar kameez designed for the occasion to come out. And it was just a very cheap Lucknowi kurta and pajama, which must have costed $500 anyway. But it's good. I mean, whatever I wear gets labeled as designer, even in prison. But, okay, so that was the thing. So 2 days later, I went to court in a pair of jeans and a shirt. And another journalist wrote that, oh my God, she's dressed up so casually as if she's going to go to the Kala Ghora festival. Oops. So it is like I said, you're
No win.
damned. Yeah, it's so I realized that I don't need to please anyone. I shall wear exactly what I feel like, and I did that in prison.
And you got admitted to a hospital
Yes.
also, and
Yes,
then there
that's
were
correct.
write-ups which said that you attempted suicide. You had, I would well understand that the trauma would induce anybody to want to just end it all.
End it all. See, I'll be very honest with you, Smita, that there were on several occasions I would just not want to wake up in the mornings because, or when I wake up, when I go to sleep, I would want to believe that it's one big nightmare which would end. But that particular incident that happened, again, is very, 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 very strange. And, sometimes it gets me to also feel that I don't think, when I went into prison, firstly, well, I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat. Not because the food was bad, it was not because of that, but it was, the overall trauma and everything. I lost almost 18-20 kgs, but not because of my creature comforts, again, but because of what I was going through emotionally. But I still survived. And a month later, I was unconscious. And in prison, until and unless, you find some other means that you go and cut your wrist or go and hang yourself, you cannot just become unconscious, because any form of medication that is given to any prisoner is given under proper supervision. So that was something of course, I was diagnosed with something very, very different. I was diagnosed with a blockage in my brain. That is what had actually happened, but stories are stories. So there was this whole story of overdose and this and that, which of course didn't come out in the reports. But there were other stories that spun out of it. But the actual cause was which came out on my medical reports, and I have actually stopped the treatment now. Finally, in the last 6 months, the clot has, because there was a clot in my brain. That is what had happened. And so I was in blood thinners for a very, very long time, up until almost 6 months ago. So now I am all right. And post that also, I had symptoms of a brain stroke much later, and I had a facial paralysis and all of that. So it is kind of...
It's manifested physiologically too.
Yes, it was actually that, to be very honest. It was that. But then again, of course, that was a piece of spicy reporting that happened, and but it's all right.
You're always in the media eye. In conclusion, Indrani, I just want to ask you, are you searching for Sheena, or do you want that to be not your job to do?
No, I am searching for her. Of course I am. And I am doing it in my own way. And there is already a lot of evidence on record, which I said, which definitely establishes already that she was alive after that alleged date of whatever deaths or going missing. I cannot say for sure what is the status right now. I'm using the term status because it's very painful to use any other word right now. I hope she is alive. I hope she's fine and safe wherever she is. And if she has whatever constraints she has, she needs to know that she will be well protected if she's under any form of pressure that she cannot come out. But my search for her is not going to end. It is not going to end. I couldn't do it earlier and till I was behind bars, but I have started it. And this time when somebody came and told me, when I was behind bars, all I could do was write to the authorities, but nobody did anything, right? For months till I had to again go to court. It was too late because we could have retrieved CCTV footage. The police officer was willing to go and show the spot, but nobody did anything. It's perhaps, the system or what it is, I don't know. But this time I did not take a chance. When somebody came and told me immediately, I did everything that I could. And yes, I am doing my own search in my own way, whatever I can. I cannot talk about it right now. I am not legally authorized to conduct an investigation because I am, not an investigating agency. But no, I shall never give up the search. No, I will not.
All the best to you. Hope you find closure in all the troubles that that have happened to you, and more strength to you.
Thank you so much, Smita. As far as closure goes, I think emotional closure I have found by writing this book, because all my life I have been baptized by fire,
Yeah.
And that has made me a stronger person. But at the same time, I do believe that in our lives, in different degrees, we will always have challenges. Just that we need to believe in ourselves. And I think I also do believe that there is a God above and there is karma. And karma is the hero without a cape. And there is justice. And last but not the least, this book is not my version. This book is the truth. And there is only one truth. There cannot be two truths. There cannot be half truths. And I also want to put it on record that I'm very, very thankful that HarperCollins has published this book. But I've written this entire book in prison. They've had the courage to publish this book, but there has been a legal validation, and we have gone through an entire process of legal ratification and validation for over a period of 6 months before we put this out to print. And which is why on the footnotes, I have put all the links wherever possible. And I have taken every question asked by every single journalist on the chin, because I know I can give answers. Looking into the eye of the journalist as well as the camera.
You're not a shrinking violet, and you shouldn't be.
Thank
no
you.
woman should be.
Thank you.
I don't believe that anybody... I mean, of course, everybody would want you to play the role of a grieving mother all your life, and
I am grieving. Inside, I am grieving for several things.
You know. I mean, you have... Grieving inside is a different matter because of the life that you have led. But the role of grieving, if you know what I mean, the... not coloring your hair, like you mentioned, is one of the things that is expected out of somebody grieving the loss of a loved one. But then you have decided...
I do not believe that I have lost her.
Yeah.
I will find her.
Yes, I wish you success in that.
Thank
I
you.
hope that wherever Sheena is, if she's alive, that she reaches across to you and you find some kind of a solution to the problem that you're going through.
Yes.
All the best.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Smita.
so much.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
And thank you for discussing the book and bringing out parts which would kind of otherwise perhaps, not have come out to this degree. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a difficult conversation with a murder accused. Thank you for watching or listening in to this edition of ANI Podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.